Valor raised, or VALR, I don't know how to pronounce it. They raised 57 million rand to quote advance cryptocurrency adoption. And what Valor or VALR is, it's like the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in South Africa. So it's like super interesting to see crypto really coming in and starting to impact the market in a South African manner, and just like that exchange of medium really starting to come in. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's the largest Bitcoin exchange by trading volume.
Do they only do Bitcoin?
It would appear so, but I know because they raised it through Michael Jordan, who's like a super big supporter of just like new technologies. I think he's got a big
Yeah.
thing to
Isn't
do with
linked
what's
to-
happening in
yeah.
Rain, and he's the former FNBC.
Yeah, linked to like
and
the
that's
co-founders
known
of.
for like
Well, I see here you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum,
Mm.
that XRP,
That's
Litecoin, all of those big ones.
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar to like a Luna. Have you seen the app Luno?
you would
Well, it's like you're on a billboard here in
No way.
Hatfield. It's like an
Really?
app where you can,
Did you
to-
have
to-
that on?
buy and sell cryptocurrency.
Damn. Are you into it? You in?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I want to see how it works. I mean, I'm very interested in it.
Yeah, it says here that they have like over 13,000 Bitcoin traded over the last month.
15,000 full Bitcoin.
13,000
13.
yes, traded over the last
Yes,
month,
see.
and they just have 40,000 plus customers to sell more than 50 different types of cryptocurrencies.
That's crazy.
That is insane, bro. It's interesting to see this because it's been a large topic of discussion internationally. It's interesting to see this play out in the South African marketplace and looking at the early adopters and seeing if they'll be rewarded for being early adopters. But I know because the whole thing right now is everyone's very skeptical. There's still got a lot of skeptics, just crypto as a whole.
Yeah.
Still has a lot of skeptics. So it'll be interesting to see them getting proved wrong. All right. I think
Yeah, I think they're going to be proved right. Can I tell you? Okay, so just a bit of background. We, like the four of us met, we started finchat. We met at a induction program at one of the big four banking groups in South Africa. And we, in that induction program, just before that, I actually read up a lot about cryptocurrencies. So my questions, especially
Yeah.
for the banking world, because cryptocurrencies are like a big threat to
Threat
the
to their
banking
model, yeah.
system.
Yeah.
Just because it decentralizes financial
Financial
services and
services,
stuff. So payments and stuff like that doesn't have to go through banks. It just goes through a blockchain. So it's a big threat for banks because banks make a lot of money from fees, from charging fees on transactions and so on. That's why even any payment technologies like PayPal got massive valuations because it's a
Huge,
payment
like,
process,
disruptor,
and they get fees through that. So cryptocurrency is a big threat to that whole financial industry because in this induction program we met a lot of the executives from this banking group.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I still remember when a lot of my questions that I asked
we'll centered around that.
was centered around that, but it was always like shut down in the same way. And I mentioned it in my article that I wrote in the newsletter last week. You guys must go check it out. Where I said the thing is called A Case for Crypto, where I actually mentioned where all of them said that they don't want to touch crypto because it's
Of the-
facilitated illegal
Yes.
dealings, and there's not enough volume moving from it. So it's easy to manipulate the market prices and so on. But they are interested in the underlying technology,
being the
blockchain.
Before we get to, because I want to discuss, and Randy knows quite a bit about blockchain. Before we get to discussing blockchain, do you think that's a valid excuse?
But haven't you like seen also sentiment change like with like bigger banks and like international banks like during like now they've been changing like
Yeah,
the view
but
with that.
before we get to that, the thing is, like, I think
Do you
anything
think
that
that's
we
an
start,
Excuse.
I also
though?
don't think it's. I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's
Especially
closed-minded.
for-
I think you need to open your mind to
Yeah.
this because
Yes.
this is the future of
Yeah,
money.
that's the
Especially
thing.
my
for,
opinion.
for financial services sector that claims to be so.
Yeah, you have to
forward and
develop it.
innovative.
You have to be, because in the future, banks have always been the facilitation of transactions.
So I think
So need to adopt this technology, need to accept it, and try to find ways to actually incorporate it into their businesses as quick as possible, in my opinion. Because if you stay on top of it,
Yeah,
you're
you're the
you can-
market leader.
Yeah, you're the market leader.
Yeah.
But I think like people are skeptic of it because they say it's not backed by something. Yes, it's not backed by something. But you can easily make it backed by,
By
something.
something.
There are cryptocurrencies out there that's backed by gold.
Yes.
There's cryptocurrencies
That
out
are
there that's
backed
backed by
by a
dollar.
basket of currencies. Yeah.
There are even cryptocurrencies out there that's backed like by other commodities like grain
Yeah.
and anything.
Yeah.
And I even think in the future, cryptocurrencies are going to be backed by companies
Yeah.
where companies are actually going to raise capital through doing initial coin offerings, and the coin's value is going to be based on the value of a company.
That's crazy.
And
yeah.
because cryptocurrency exchanges are becoming so cheap and it's so easy to do, you will be able to transact with that value of a company.
That
If
would
you
be
understand, like
insane.
just
Yes.
think, like we did mergers and acquisitions now, right?
Yeah.
And we know that in mergers, a lot of mergers are financed through share swaps,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? So they're using the
The value
shares
of the
of
company,
the
yeah.
acquiring company
Yeah.
as the currency.
Yeah.
They're using it as
Ooh,
the transactional,
Yeah.
crazy.
the medium of
Yeah.
transaction. So what if cryptocurrency can do that on a way cheaper way and a way easier way? So if you can, if the currency or the exchange decides what the value is of something when it's backed by, say, now Amazon,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or I think that was what Facebook was thinking
With
They
Libra.
were with Libra.
They were thinking more because they wanted to do this thing where they separate Libra from Facebook. We actually have an article on this too back in the day when we did
Ooh.
a 21
Day
days of
lockdown.
lockdown.
Yeah.
Wow, that was actually a nice tunnel into the crypto discussion. But Libra had this thing where they wanted to distance themselves from Facebook because of the public's perception of Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, but they solved the backing problem with being backed by a basket of other currencies. Like I think it was $1, one of them was the euro, one of them was the yen, and a couple of others that I might be missing. But they were backed by other currencies. I just think in 2020, the fact that illicit activity takes place is too arbitrary of a reason to dismiss cryptocurrency.
Yeah, same.
Maybe 3-4 years ago when we knew, but in 2020, nah.
Bro, listen, before cryptocurrencies came out, illegal dealings were still happening.
Exactly.
Except
that's
it
my
was
thing.
happening with actual cold hard cash.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now it's just happening over an exchange. There's always going to be illegal
Yes.
dealings.
But-
And the good thing is when it starts catching up, regulation is catching up.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
So,
also your something that would drive it is regulation. You know, as soon as like reserve banks and stuff picking it up, you know, then you'd see people adopting it. Because I think the big rejection is because like they see that as a threat to their natural system. You know, so obviously they'd be inclined to deny, and just like put it out. And like the whole thing of like fostering illegal dealings. I was reading this. I was watching this show on Netflix. But I think it was like drug money or like bad money, something like that. And I think they spoke about how like one bank, I don't want to name them, it starts with an H, in Mexico, and they were like fostering like a drug lord money,
Yeah.
and it's like illegal dealings exist, it's not a valid excuse.
Just a while ago, even in South Africa, like there were 5 banks in South Africa that got fines for not effectively implementing FICA regulation
Yeah.
and finding out. So they were actual illegal dealings and money laundering going through the banks in South Africa, and they weren't clamping down on that enough.
Like I was saying, I think the main point I was trying to make is I don't think it's an excuse. I think it's just an apprehensiveness of the unknown.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I think the thing is about retrospect is when you look back, it always looks like, of course they would do that. But at the current moment,
It's
Yeah.
just like
it's just
The thing is, listen, we use money
yeah,
as if
As an
it
exchange.
always existed and everyone made sense of it forever.
yeah.
Right? When money first got introduced,
People
money
were-
started by people. At the beginning, people used gold to transact because people ascribed value to gold. Right? They liked how it looked. You knew the rich people had gold, and that's why you wanted gold. So, but then it got a massive risk to actually travel with a lot of gold with you, because if you got robbed, people would take your gold. So what people did, they put their gold into a safe somewhere or under someone's protection, and they got a piece of paper that said
I have the
I
gold.
have
Randy
some of the gold, yes.
owns 1,000 ounces of gold,
Yeah.
and everyone knows how much value 1,000 ounces of gold is in that time.
Yeah.
And that's basically how money started. But the first person who received probably that payment from, so now I was the first person, and Randy came to me and said, here's 1,000 ounces of gold. I would have told him to vlieg in his moeder. I'm not going to take the money. I'm not going to take the paper.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly, and it took the financial system, and that system took a lot of time to build up and to make sense for people to use. And I think that's exactly the same with cryptocurrency.
I don't think it should take too long though, especially because back then, obviously, we aren't as interconnected. But I think because of our interconnectivity right now, and just the effects of globalization, I don't think it shouldn't be. I understand the risks. I
Yeah.
think that's one thing. Let's not let's not leave outside the risks. But I don't think it should be such a big hoo-ha, especially with where the world is moving and how everyone is pushing for a more cashless system, and what more convenient way to implement it than crypto. I think also it's just, I don't think regulators are scared. I just don't think they've caught up regulatory wise to crypto. So I think that's
I
where
think
the
it's difficult to
shakiness-
regulate,
is.
especially because the thing was built around being anonymous on
Yes.
it. So the best place you can regulate is actually in the wallets or on the ends, so that I can regulate Phila, but I can't regulate
What's going on in the
what's
blockchain.
going on in the blockchain,
Yeah.
because the blockchain was designed to not be able to adjust anything there or get the information there. So, but they can regulate all the Bitcoin that comes into your account and goes out. The problem is you can still create an account without connecting it to any Fika. So I can go now and create a
Luna.
wallet on
Yeah.
Luna or on Phila.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to pay you something,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to pay me something without any Fika. So I think what's going to happen is, I think Phila probably, if you go look at that, they probably have some Fika process or something like that.
Right,
So I
yeah.
think certain companies or certain wallets, and I think that's where the banks can come in.
Yeah.
If they create the wallet and that wallet can,
see that.
all dealings that go through that wallet can be somehow, I don't know,
Interlinks.
can be valid. Where
Yeah.
if someone gets money anywhere else from that, it's invalid, if you understand. So it's easy to regulate a certain wallet. So like Vale, if they do Fika, banks can invest in that. But banks can trust transactions from Vale,
Yeah, because
Vale
it's
because they Fika
Fika
all their clients.
authorized.
They manage or they track all the money and have analytics on all the coins coming in and out of that person's wallet. So yeah.
Ooh, I think that that's very important as well, with just the whole thing of like, I had a podcast this morning, and I was speaking to our guest, and he said his sentiment there, and he's obviously the older generation, and his sentiment is like, as soon as I can pay taxes in crypto, I'll start using it. You know, so it's like
That's valid, yeah.
You see, so it's like a big thing of like, as soon as government intervenes, then like society will see, oh, okay, this is okay. I mean, because if the government says this is okay, then I can definitely use it. So I think it's a huge also pressure that now we're going to go into the next phase. We're making up the next phase of workforce, and we're quite technologically like advanced, you know,
Yeah.
in that sense compared to like, you know, the older generation. So I think, as Peter said, like it is going to be implemented way quicker, as in like past. You know,
Yeah, because
past
we have
times.
access to the information to actually hear what people can talk to me and teach me over YouTube and through podcasts about how the blockchain works. And like, I don't think we should go too deep into the technicals of it, because there's a lot of great resources out there that people can go look at.
Yeah.
The blockchain is a hot word. You can't go into financial circles without hearing those two words. The blockchain.
Josh, tell us what the blockchain
the
is,
blockchain-
bro.
So it's basically a ledger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's like a huge technical. It's a distributed database.
Don't listen, like that makes me so like I can't understand that. So there's this one YouTube channel that I follow
Free promo.
or subscribe to. I don't watch a lot of YouTube, but I think I'm subscribed to like 13 channels, so I'll easily find it.
I watch a lot of.
I watch so much YouTube. I have like
So much
200 subscriptions. Or something.
It's called Simply Explained.
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a guy, and he has a lot of proper stuff on the blockchain and how Ethereum works and how Ethereum is different from Bitcoin, and how like the smart contracts on Ethereum is just insane. And I think when I understood that, my mind got open to cryptocurrencies like crazy. Like I don't think Bitcoin is the final answer, but I think
it's a
stepping stone.
the big value driver behind the big value driver at this moment behind Bitcoin
Yeah.
is actually it's like the activist against central banks.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why people ascribe value to it. So Bitcoin has its own monetary policy that's written into the program, and how the coins are distributed. There's a fixed amount of Bitcoin that will ever be mined, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
It's mine is basically just using processes and allowing the blockchain to run on your computers, and then you compensate it in Bitcoin for that service that you do to the blockchain. But there's a fixed amount. So I think it's like in the next 3 years or something, blockchain is going to stop being, you won't be able to mine any Bitcoin anymore. So it's going to be a scarcity thing.
Oh, okay.
So, and it
then
has
that's
a
when it
fixed
starts.
monetary policy,
Ooh.
which no central bank can affect. No one can change how many Bitcoin there is in the system. So there can't be any injections or any
Withdrawals
withdrawals
Yes,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
Bitcoin financial
Yeah.
system, and that's like, especially that's what people refer to it as digital gold. It's not because it has value or it's $10,000 a Bitcoin or whatever.
Because
It's not about that.
scarcity,
It's
yeah.
about, it has the same qualities as a commodity. It has scarcity,
Yeah.
and because it has scarcity, it has value. So, I mean, gold has almost no value to us. What do we do with gold? It looks good. That's all people like gold
Yeah.
change and
Yeah.
gold
Yeah.
watches. It looks nice.
Yeah.
So, and people ascribe richness to gold.
Yeah.
Ascribe luxury to gold.
Yeah. So
Just for completeness purposes, Josh mentioned that I have 1,000 ounces. Goes, I guarantee I do not have that lying around. So don't take him seriously.
I also think the main characteristic, and it ties in with what Josh is saying, of the blockchain is the
Yeah.
fact that, like Josh is saying, no one can kind of edit it. Once it's in the blockchain, it's in
Bam.
the blockchain. And Josh mentioned it in the form of central banks can't come and change the policy of how stuff runs through there. But yeah, that's like, I think it's just the finality of it. And I think it's got a whole lot of more applications, which we also talked about in another newsletter with the 21 days of lockdown. Check that out.
Free promo.
Check that out. It's got a lot of applications, but
Yeah.
that's what makes it so powerful in the financial services sense. It's so protected.
yeah,
It's so
it's
protected.
basically a storage area
Yes.
that can't be changed. So
Yes.
people can't. If it gets hacked, everyone knows, because it's like having a piece of cake in the middle of the house where 10 people live. If someone takes a piece of cake, everyone
Everyone's
will
gonna
see
know.
it.
Yeah.
So, Josh, would you say we're moving towards crypto being more currency or more commodity?
I think
Yes.
at the moment it's a commodity
Commodity,
because
yeah.
people see it like digital gold.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to go to being a currency. And I actually think, I know it's a bit far-fetched, but I think companies are going to become more the value drivers behind currencies
Mm.
rather than governments,
Yes.
because I think people are losing, because historically,
Yeah.
what happened in the 1900s was there was a big push for the economists in the world, especially in America, where the Fed was taken over by economists and
Yeah.
everything was decided by the economists.
Through
They
economic
took
policy, yeah.
the dollar off of the gold standard,
Mm-hmm.
and everything was driven by monetary policy. So injecting money, and everything was driven by debt, essentially, because
Yeah.
monetary policy is built on debt. They manage it. It's increasing and decreasing of interest rates, which increases or decreases the amount of money in the system. Because the lower the interest rates, the more borrowing activity there is. And if Randy gives me 100 Rand, if between the three of us, Randy has 100 Rand, he gives me 100 Rand, and I loan 90 Rand to you, suddenly there's 190 Rand.
Yeah.
So that's a basic way to explain the multiplier effect of debt.
Yeah.
So because of that pressure there from the economists and from the monetary policy, people started seeing currency as being backed by a government.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
And with that came that Milton Friedman and the economists said that the capitalist system, the private sector, should drive greed as hard as I can. I remember they said greed is good. That's like Milton Friedman's, like that was his saying. That was his
Financial
motto. Greed
crisis.
is good. And they drove greed.
Yeah.
And what basically the system was that the government was the competition to the private sector. So the government's responsibility was pushing back on the private sector and regulating, or he actually said you shouldn't regulate, but because he said if you are a pharmaceuticals company and you bring out the drug that kill people, your reputation will take you down.
Yeah.
But that didn't work. because you don't see the negative effects, and it doesn't get publicized because who controls the media? The private sector. So then everyone said, okay, yes, the government must come in and they must become the pushback against the private sector, and they must do the social stuff. They must get taxed and do redistribution of wealth. They must be the socially conscious. And that's where South Africa in the 1994, when we wrote our system, our economic system works, we brought in a massive fiscal dependency in South Africa. So we have our fiscal policy is a lot more important in South Africa than our actual monetary policy, I think, just because our government spending is so important, especially for the poorer. South Africa. Yes, monetary policy is more important for the rich people because that's use their
direct wealth,
and especially for the financial system, monetary policy is the most important because it's interest rates. But fiscal policy is the most important for the people. But now, in the recent years, we've seen that companies, I'm talking really long, but I'll get to my point, where companies are becoming more socially responsible. So it's actually becoming more and more important for companies to be socially responsible, and they're getting expected from customers and from the public to be socially responsible. So now that role in government is becoming
more of a
becoming less dependent on the government to do the social work. And coupled with that, governments have failed the people dismally over so many years, and even everyone is unhappy with the government. Everyone wants to bring in, that's why socialism is coming up. They're saying the government must own everything, because then everyone will have everything. And I don't know how that makes sense, because if everyone has everything, no one has anything. So yeah, that's why I think companies are going to become the actual value drivers behind currencies, because governments are becoming less and less credible. People are trusting in them less and less. And I think especially if companies like, say now Amazon, if you can trade in Amazon shares as a currency,
that would be
I know it's far-fetched, but I think because I've thought it about so much, it's obvious for me.
Especially with PE of 150.
That's ultimately what I think will happen to it.
What would you think now? What would be the incentive for anyone to get into crypto now?
I think to get to know it. That's why I'm into it. I just want to get to know it. I want to know, for me, smart contracts is the most important thing to understand, because it basically writes something into a contract and people can't change it. It's inalterable. And what can happen is if I have agreement, or the two of us have an agreement that every rand I pay to Randy, 50 cents will go to you. Right? We can write that on a blockchain. And if I pay him through Ethereum on that,
it's gonna come.
Automatically it goes 50 cents to you. He won't even have the chance to get his hands on that 50 cents. If you understand what I mean.
So good
for me, that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take out agents. It's going to take out middlemen.
Corruption,
a lot of
I was about to
middlemen.
say, that was the first thing that got to me. Just funds getting to where they need to get easier.
Yeah.
As opposed to having someone facilitating that entire function. I think it would be very interesting to see that too. It's just, I think for a lot of people, it's just such a far-fetched concept.
Yeah.
It's just crypto's just over there. It's such a thing in the clouds. And I think the mentality around that has to change. I think, like Josh is doing, I think more people have to kind of like sit
more
down.
And let's be
awareness.
fair, there's also a stigma around it. Like I've laughed before I found out what actually the power behind Bitcoin is. I laughed at it.
Yeah.
Because it was made out to me to be a place for, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's made out to everyone initially, especially in the first couple of years it broke out. It was just like, if you want to buy a gun on the black market.
Yeah. There was this whole stigma around it.
Yeah.
Around Bitcoin.
So it's like around like just building awareness, raising awareness. I mean, small things like we saw it in like our tests and stuff, but it's like small things like that where you start seeing it like here and there, because we need to, like, how do you actively then change the mindset? How do you actively bring this to people so that we can actually promote that it's not a bad thing, and we need to actually accept change,
We need to start planning around it too.
Yeah.
It's imperative. We need to, IFRS 9 must do something to do.
But I think we're getting there, because I think last year, so the South African government, I think the SARB was looking into
on top of stuff, dude.
We're looking into creating government-backed cryptocurrencies, and I think even in Latin America there are actually governments that the currency is actually a cryptocurrency now. Well, I don't. for me, I'd still have to read into it what actually would
Yeah.
be the difference between a crypto rand compared to a actual rand,
Rand,
because if the central bank can still inject or
Then in
withdraw
essence,
money
it's
from
just
it,
electronic
just-
money. It's just,
and we have digital
yes,
money now. I mean,
exactly.
Investec,
Yeah.
Investec literally has no cash. It's
Yeah.
a completely digital
Cashless
bank.
system.
So, and all
That's
the
their
banks
selling
also.
point.
So yeah,
Have you ever talked to an Investec employee? She's like, have you ever seen an Investec have you ever seen an
ATM?
Investec ATM? Exactly.
And
Yeah.
funny enough, I was thinking about wait, guys. I've never seen an ATM Investec, you know.
Yeah.
It's been their selling point for years.
Dude,
But it's
no,
not-
it's been there forever.
forever.
Like,
In fact, when I was in grade 11, I went to Investec
Yeah.
for the first time in grade. That's the first thing.
no, but
they
also
said
what
to
they
us.
do is though, you can call if you're a client of theirs and you
Mhm.
call them and you need 20,000 Mexican pesos, they'll come deliver it at your door within an hour.
That's
What do
crazy.
So you don't even have to go
mean?
out and draw money or go to a bank. So that's
That's
the whole value
crazy.
proposition. Yeah.
So
I just wish we'd see not a faster adoption, but like an interest at least. Because I was at the same thing that Josh was talking about, and every time he did raise a crypto question, one person told him about the illicit dealings, the other one said, anything they do, we can do better. And my follow up question, I remember Josh asked this, and someone was like, anything they can do, we can do better. And my follow up question was, then why don't you?
Yeah.
What? Then why don't you? I want to touch on some more of the risks besides maybe the illicit dealing surrounding it. Maybe I want to maybe look at the forex risks of having one currency and kind of like circulate the earth. I don't know if that's actually a risk.
Or if you have a global currency.
Yeah. Besides a global
That's
currency,
what I'm
it's just-
saying.
just the
I
ability
don't think
to
it's going to
move.
happen. I don't think there will ever be a global currency where the whole world uses
Yes,
the same
exactly.
currency. Just because people become
People love-
upset because
Why?
why do countries that don't work at all? That's a big problem. Why do you think like that's one of the big problems in Europe, I think also.
you would
That strong economies are carrying the weak economies, and the countries don't actually control their currency. So
Yeah.
I mean, the European Bank, the European Central Bank manages their monetary policy. So the countries don't have impact on that, and I think that's a big problem for people.
It's like,
So-
it's-
But-
yeah.
My thing is, it's going to happen though. Even if we all still keep our respective currencies, crypto is going to travel from country to country. And there needs to be some sort of regulation around that, obviously. How does that look?
I think it's through the
World.
crypto exchanges.
Yeah.
So if you have a wallet, I mean, it's going to work exactly the same.
Yeah.
The wallet is just going to be your bank account.
But then,
What
do you think like
happens if we
banks
just
would
all
when you work
primarily
together?
start trading in crypto, even though everyone has their own currency?
So say now I open a shop and I say, okay, I accept Bitcoin and someone can transfer Bitcoin to me. I think that's
Exactly.
that's what Bitcoin or crypto enthusiasts want. So if you start a company where you create point of sale system or whatever for people to actually or merchant services to actually take crypto payments. I don't know what's the regulatory risk that you take there though, but
That's like what makes it interesting. There's this. Imagine if a company as large as Amazon just started saying that, you know what,
You can use
just use crypto.
bro, that would be
Yes.
changing.
And cool, we all have our own primary currencies and we see these risks and stuff like that. But what happens when it's like a huge mass adoption of like now we're all, not all of us, but in essence, a lot of us are using crypto and we kind of start seeing the obsolescence. That's
yeah,
the word, right?
obsolescence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of just what happens around there. Because I get what you're saying too, of productive economies.
Because at the moment, the reason why we still use a rand, I think, because it's illegal to hold dollars for more than 30 days, unless it's in an offshore account, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you have to change it into rands, it gets changed into rands immediately when it gets into your account. So that's also how that regulation protects it, and that's also why banks. So cryptocurrencies main space at the moment and the
Mhm.
impact it's making. And actually, if you want to find out more about this, I love the podcast called Unchained.
Free promo.
It's really, really a great podcast to learn about cryptocurrencies and like
Yeah.
the impact it has
Ooh,
in countries like
fun.
Zimbabwe and whose currency have just failed their population time after time. they started, these companies who started creating wallets for people in Zimbabwe and similar countries, especially in Africa, for people who live in South Africa, example, but have to pay. They're sending money home to their people in Zimbabwe, but there's no effective way to get it there because of correspondent banking and so on. It takes a lot of time to get it there, or they have to travel it up in cash. So there was actual systems designed, and people created companies to allow these people to send money home through cryptocurrencies. And it was a way to keep it out of the government's eyes, or so that the government doesn't know when you get money, because the government, so Zimbabwe doesn't allow it. Actually, they don't allow it.
Really?
But there are some merchants that allow people to exchange bitcoins for actual cash in Zimbabwe and similar countries.
What currency are they currently using now? Do you know? Out of interest.
They always just adopt the
dollar.
US dollar. Yeah. So, but because they tried to launch a currency last year again, but then the hyperinflation just killed it.
Sure, man.
That's crazy. Isn't the inflation like 700 and something percent?
Yeah, again. But so yeah, that's why I started really becoming a fan of it, because the impact it makes. How it democratizes financial services, where anyone can get payments literally. And if I send money to you in Zimbabwe, now through the bank, it will take a week. But when I do it through Bitcoin, it takes less than a minute.
Yeah.
And especially when time is so important to a lot of poor people, where if I get money on this Friday, if I don't send it by tomorrow, they don't have food to eat tomorrow.
Yeah, because like even there's a situation where someone couldn't go to school here because like there was they needed their bursar was in Zimbabwe, right? And they needed to pass it through the bank to come here, but then like there was some issue there, and they didn't literally didn't allow it to come, and now the person couldn't register, and like registration date was coming, and like it was closing, and like so situations like that would be like more effective to use So
crypto. Obviously there is a gap where someone can use cryptocurrency to steal or illegal dealings, but like something like that, for example, that's what I think. If we can figure this out, it's great.
It sounds really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I liked what you touched on, Phila, when you spoke about the applications of blockchain and how we can also use it to like fight corruption and stuff. I'm gonna go into a little like rounds here, but like so I was looking at voting because like voting season's coming up and stuff. If we look at the US, Europe, with the whole voting process now. What we usually do is like you have two systems, the paper system and like the electoral system, right? And the biggest issues with those is obviously people can change the votes, right? So with electronic voting, you can just easily hack into it, but with paper based, it's very easy for someone to literally just change your vote or just not process it, right? So like those are like the major concerns. Then I was looking into this, I'm like, we can use blockchain as an alternative, right? Because as we said earlier, like you can't change it as you go. Like as soon as you set the blockchain with the parameters, you can't change it. So it really stops a lot of corruptions on that point, and also it boosts transparency, because the biggest thing that the democracy wants to see is where their votes go. So I was doing a bit of research on this, and there's someone that like mentioned how it would work. Like basically you'd log on, like you'd have your laptop on, right? So you log on with the government ID and facial recognition, right? And someone would verify you, and then after you vote, you can literally see, okay, did I vote? And where did my vote go? And let's say like there's something
like a live update.
Yeah,
they can give live updates,
and you can
also,
actually change it before like voting closes. So let's say you find out later then that that other guy actually doesn't support this thing that you thought he supported. You can just change your vote, or you can withdraw it. So it really allows more flexibility. So if we look at that aspect, and without like going into too much detail, if we think about like where we're heading now with the new like norm, as we always speak about, with social distancing and not like overcrowding, this would be like a great alternative, because now you don't have to go wait in lines. Obviously this is to the places where they have systems, people that have laptops and stuff, but obviously to people that don't have the infrastructure, because also we know that in developing countries like emerging economies like ourselves, where we don't have the best infrastructure, then we can have a specific outpost for that. So it's also it's less cost. It's less cost. If it's more cost effective. Yeah, it's more cost effective because now you don't have to print like a thousands of stuff or set up as many voting stations, and you don't have to hire staff to count. You don't have to like administer security. So you save a lot of costs. It's more efficient, you know, and it's more transparent. So people can actually see, you know, when I vote, does it go through? You know, so like that's what.
And it will increase voter turnout by moose loads. I mean, I think the biggest problem also, like I think in the last vote that we did,
The last election.
how many people was like the worst voter turnout ever.
Really?
Yeah, we had like a lot less than previous years. I think about 69% of what we had the previous time or something like that of registered voters actually
Going
voted.
to vote.
And I think that's the big problem is, okay, firstly, people didn't know who to vote for.
Yeah.
So that's a political speech. The other thing is people don't have access to easily vote, and people are kept in spaces where they don't get access to get to a place and vote. And I think that's also a problem in America. That's why the Democrats, they are pushing hard to do vote by mail, where you can actually vote and then mail your vote in, just to make it easier for people to vote, because you can't go stand in, a lot of people can't go stand in a line for 9 hours just to vote, where that 9 hours is incredibly important for their children to eat.
Exactly. You know? So if you look at things like that, and now you could also look at like paying taxes, you know, because like, okay, my big thing of like why I see certain people don't pay taxes is because, you know, once they pay your taxes, what does the government do with it? You know, most of it corruption.
It just creates, people underestimate
the
blockchain.
uses, you know.
Blockchain is as big as finding out electricity.
And it's
That's how big it is, the applications of it.
and it's far and wide, inside and outside of like finance. It's just, dude, there's just interesting articles on the use of blockchain in medicine, the use of blockchain in like, I know the Red Cross, the charity organization that comes into like war-ridden countries. I know they're exploring heavy uses with it. It's just the application, like you're saying. It's like discovering like electricity. So do look into it more. If you can buy some crypto, if you don't want to, just look into it, man. I think it's just like a whole lot of interesting discussion. Thank you for tuning in today. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about, man. DM us on Instagram at finchat.co. Follow us on Twitter. DM us at finchat.co. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're really accessible, and we just want you guys to be involved. So just let us know. And thank you for tuning in today, guys.